Everybody ready?
Ready when you are.
Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot you all nodded back. Okay, I will call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Director Sewell.
Here.
Thank you. Director Grasha.
Here. Here.
Thank you. Director Martin.
Here.
Thank you. Vice President Duncan
Here.
and President Wright.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. So Monday, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance on Monday?
Yes.
Again, okay, so we'll do that Monday. Employee recognitions. No.
On Monday.
That'll
You've
be-
got 4 months worth.
Pardon?
Yes, but
Yeah.
am I muted?
No.
Were
Oh.
you? I'm trying to find.
Yes, yes, we will. We don't have any significant dates, 5, 10, 15 years, but yes, we will
But
do
we
that
do have
on
a
Monday.
19 and an 18 year and a 12 year. So that's a lot of years. Okay.
It's pretty
we'll do that
long.
Monday. Yeah.
There is a milestone, and he's been presented with his pin and his card. David Pena is celebrating 15 years.
Oh, he is. He's not on here.
That was last month. There should be 4 pages.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
okay, I didn't see that either.
24 years. There's 4 whole pages. Okay. Okay, thanks. We'll do all that on Monday then, whatever has to be done. Is there any public input? Anybody request public comments?
No, ma'am.
If anybody would like to make a public comment, would you do whatever needs to be done? Raise your hand in this thing or let Dory know.
Jan Pye is the only member of the public.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
I
So
have
we will
one.
move on.
Oh, Jan has public comment.
Okay, Jen.
I just want to announce that we're supposedly having a protest today at 5 o'clock in front of City Hall.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Russ, did you have something to say about that? Can we unmute? Wait a minute. You got to be on. Wait, Russ.
The old one.
Wait, say that
Go
again.
ahead, Russ.
Is that the new city hall or the old one?
The newer the
Current
old
City
City
Hall.
Hall. Pardon?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Current City Hall.
The current, which is the old.
Pearson and Palm.
Okay. The new city hall.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, okay. So they already moved in. Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll go to item 6, the COVID-19 update. Arden Wall.
Okay, well, I'll begin just briefly, then I'll let Brian give you some specifics. But in general, they went exceptionally well the first week back. I've asked around, we seem to be doing more than any other agency I talked about or I asked. In fact, one person said that, and this person goes to, probably half a dozen to a dozen different agencies, said we're really the only one requiring the constant mask. So that's good. And so I'll let Brian get into that. We will have incidents, but so far and we'll take all precautions. So I don't want to say that, this isn't going to happen, but, and it has happened. But we're doing quite well. And with that, I'll let Brian give you the specifics.
Madam President, Vice President, members of the board, just a quick update. As Arden said, we've been very successful in our reentry. To date, we've had 0 employee cases reported. At various times since March, we have had 5 staff members either self-quarantined or tested. We are being very cautious and trying to be as safe as we possibly can, but we've also set up provisions that if someone does test positive, we have the tracking or tracing of movements to establish what those what the quarantine guidelines may be. Also, we would request that testing of the staff prior to their returning if they did test positive. We have made some changes from a staffing perspective. A portion of our customer service staff has moved into the annex building. We've also asked staff to utilize the boardroom for all lunches and breaks. Masks, as General Manager stated, masks are worn anytime staff walks through the building to or from their car and things of that nature. Staff is careful not to block any hallways or stairwells for obvious reasons. We want to make sure we maintain 6 feet social distancing. And we've also provided additional disinfectant products, wipes, sprays, sanitizers, and all of those types of things to the staff. Still minimizing any large meetings or things like that. So again, today, 0 employee cases reported. So that's good news. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Anybody have any questions to the board members? Okay, so number 7, on Monday, we'll have a public hearing for the establishment of water standby assessments, and which goes along with number 8, which is also a public hearing on Monday to establish sewer standby assessments. General Manager, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, well, I can, I'm sure Matt can answer any of your questions. Both of these we do every year. A relatively small amount of money. It's a process that we go through in order to place these standby charges on the tax roll. And there's, they've been developed for the purpose of paying the cost to maintain the service lines in front of this undeveloped property. I think some people don't understand that. I got a call the other day that said, well, we have a service line and I think we have a meter. And I said, well, if you have a meter, you're not paying a standby fee because that will automatically come off the minute that you do make a connection. However, there is a cost to us to maintain that capacity in front of that property. We can't do that without a 2/3 vote now, so we haven't added anything to this. I don't know, Matt, for many, many years.
Since 2018. Since
Since
2018.
since 2018, which is
Yeah.
96 or 97. Can't
Wow.
remember. Okay. At any rate, Matt, I don't know if you have anything more you want to say with regard to these. The same thing will apply to the sewer standby fees too. Do you have anything, Matt?
Anything to add other than what you've said and what's in the staff reports, but I can answer any questions.
Okay, board, have any questions? I guess I see 2 shakes. How about you, Ivan? Shake your head. No, how about you, Steve? Okay, so thanks, guys. So we'll move on to number 9. Number 9, sounds like a song.
All right.
Addition of delinquent accounts to the county tax rolls. General Manager?
Okay, this is again something we do every year. By law, we need to go through and adopt a resolution requesting the addition of these delinquent water sewer charges and other fees to be put on the tax rolls. And this is the time of year that that we need to do that. It's basically everybody's fiscal year. So there's not much more to say. It's a relatively small amount, which I think is good. And I don't know if Matt has anything more he wants to add to that.
The only thing I would add is that we are participants in the teeter plan. And so when these amounts get posted to the property tax rolls, the fact that they are delinquent, we still get our money from the county, and then the county goes through the collection process. We forfeit our penalties and interest as a result of that, but it keeps us from getting, not getting our money for another 3 or 4 years. So it's almost immediate.
Any questions? Comments? Okay, so we'll go on to item number 10. The fiscal year budget has 3 components, A, B, and C. And on Monday, we'll vote separately on each one of those items. So I guess, Matt, that's yours too.
Nothing further than what we've discussed in the workshop. Again, I can answer any questions that anybody may have.
Questions? No from Russ, no from Randy, no from Ivan. Steve, you're left, no from Steve. Okay, you guys. We're getting out of here early today. Okay, so we'll vote on those on Monday. And if anybody has any questions that they come up with, like tomorrow or Monday during the day, you know who to call, not me. Anyway, item number 11, resolution, notice of general district election, November 3rd, and establishment of deposit of an optional candidate statement. Who's getting that one?
Boy, good call. Dory might want to comment on it, but this is fairly self-explanatory. It's something we have to do every time we have candidates that are open for election. So I don't know if Dory, do you have anything else you want to comment on?
No, it's a routine procedure. It states that the candidate is responsible for their own candidate fees. And gives permission for the registrar of voters to publish a notice of election in the local newspaper.
Yes, okay, thank you. Okay, number 12, professional services for contract for agreement for Sanderson Landscape Solutions.
Again, I think, for your interest, it's fairly self-explanatory. This is something we do every year, and in some cases, and we'll change this contractor every year, and we go out to bid, and we usually award it to the lowest bidder. So, Danny, I think you can explain, if you would, to the board. This is not just for work performed around the administration building. It's probably 30+ sites. Or I don't know, Danny can give you a better idea. So Danny, do you want to take that from here?
Okay, I was to make sure my mic was off. I'd be glad to, Arden. Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, staff. So what we were asking is, we do this on an annual basis. We go out with the staff report. Is that we received 4 bids from 4 companies. Sanderson Landscape Solutions was determined to be the lowest responsive bidder for $74,520. Typically, that falls within the general manager's approval limit, but because we're asking for contingency like we've done in the past, it throws it into the board level. This is, I'm sorry, let me just switch over. As Arden talked about, it's more than just administration building campus. In addition to that, it has it's weeding, cultivating, irrigations and sprinkler systems maintenance. That item happens under prevailing wage for public works. Maintaining the irrigation system also is a prevailing wage item. Handling our water, training, tree trimming is also something that falls under prevailing wage. But the remainder of this, go over quickly: mold, litter removal, brush clearance, treatment and control of plant diseases, applying herbicides, weed control, hardscape, and they sweep and blow off our hardscapes. So that is being done at our office, as you see here on 2nd Street, our Horton wastewater treatment plant, 32 well and reservoir, including the solar site, which is a large 10-acre, and as well as those parts, lift station. So this is a contract, includes those services that used to be district much more when it goes internally with time.
Thank you, Danny. Can anybody else hear that background noise?
Yes.
I wonder what it's coming from.
I heard it when Arden was speaking, so I'm sure there needs to be anybody on mute, but.
Well, Russ is not on mute, but I don't think he's got a party going on in the background. Doesn't look like
Yeah,
it.
Sure.
I don't know where it's coming from, but okay. Because you were coming in and out a little bit, Danny, but I got most of it. Did everybody get what Danny was saying? Okay.
Let me know what you'd like me to repeat. I don't hear that noise any longer, and so I'm happy to repeat anything. But essentially, as Arden was stating, this is an annual bid process that we go out. It's not for just mowing. It's not just for this campus. It's for well over almost 40 sites and large sites, tree trimming, irrigation, hardscape cleanup. I can go on, but let me know what questions you have in case you also didn't hear me.
Okay, questions? Board members? No. Steve?
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to thank staff for putting this out, and looks like we had a lot of interest in the contract, and I'm pleased to see that we found a contractor that'll be helpful to us going forward. Thank you.
You're welcome. It's been like I said, we've done this in the past several years, but wanted to show you differently how we've done it and provide you those bidders that we received. So thank you. I'll definitely pass it on to staff.
Okay, then no other questions. Go on to number 13, professional service contract agreement for the Southern California Fleet Service, Inc.
Again, I'll let Danny elaborate on this. This is a not to exceed, of course. You know, we don't know. I don't know if some of you remember when we used to have, you know, not nearly as many vehicles. And we had 4 people doing this. And then we decided to team up with the private sector. And, you know, as always, I've never been too bashful about saying that I want to use the private sector as much as possible, because I think, especially if it results in a big savings, which I think this does. So with that said, Danny, do you have anything more you want to add to this to provide more information?
Sure. We have been doing this in the private sector for some time.
Yeah.
And it is less expensive than having 1 or 2 or even 4 FTEs in our maintenance department. The only difference is we were taking these out to a different tire shop, taking these to this mechanic shop and other different locations for oil changes. And it took a lot of staff time. It took a lot of coordination and jockeying vehicles around and taking 2 or 3 vehicles to get, or 2 or 3 staff members to get a couple of different vehicles. We had issues with some of the local areas that we could go to that didn't have a place to keep our vehicles and secure them. And it was a little bit more challenging to keep things on a maintenance contract, you know, as far as intervals go. So this is our 2nd year utilizing them. We have 78 different vehicles and equipment, from small equipment to large equipment, from backhoes and loaders to dump trucks and service trucks. So this is great because they come in after hours. We don't have to give up our vehicle during the day. Especially now when we're trying to have 1 person per vehicle for COVID purposes. So it's just it's been a success for the last 1.5 years, and we're asking the board give consideration for renewing the contract again for the next fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, thanks, Danny.
You're welcome.
Okay, item number 14, contract agreement with Trico General Engineering for 8th Street sewer line repairs.
All right. I'm gonna let Danny expand on this a little more, but essentially what this is, it's, you know, it's the flood control, I believe, is doing some work on this street. Of course, they're going to come in and tear up the street. So we, in the meantime, with our new TVing and analysis and really with some good staff thought on this, we're getting a better idea of what we need to replace and out there in our sewer lines. And this is an area where we do need to make some changes. So we thought we better come to you while they have the street torn up, which will be cheaper for us in the long run, rather than going out there later on when we have a problem and have to tear up this brand new street that they put in. So I'm gonna let Danny explain to you how this works. So.
Okay, Danny.
Thank you. Thank you, Arden. So yes, the project that triggered this is the flood control efforts and work that's going on 8th Street on the east and west sides of Palm Drive. That is a concerted effort with the City of Desert Hot Springs and Riverside County Flood Control. What happened is the scope of work increased. When that scope of work increased, we determined we had some areas that needed repairs. And when the scope of work increased, as far as it increased our repair area. And what also increased our repair area is the scope included full street paving. And what we wanted to do is get ahead of this paving, go in there and do this construction work. There are a number of different areas that are average depth, I have that noted, average depth of about 12 feet. There's repair areas that are anywhere from 3 feet to as far as 30 something feet, but there's a number of different areas that leave 8. Bassam, is your mic off? Can you turn Bassam's mic on, please? Bassam, is that 8 areas that we have in total on 8th Street?
Yeah, it's 8 separate locations, up to the largest one's about 30 feet long, 34 feet long, and the average depth is right around 12 feet deep for the repairs.
Thank you for that clarification. I just wanted to make sure. I had my note written down, but for some reason it didn't make sense to me. I didn't want to misspeak. So we are getting out ahead of this and doing this work, opening up the street. Definitely don't want to have any type of political fallout in the future, meaning brand new street, brand new storm drain, the Mission Springs Water District comes in there, decides to do the repair. So these residents have been in there, they've had like typical construction creates a disturbance in their day-to-day. They want this to be done and out of their hair. We want to get this done during that time, and we can do it at a lesser cost, as Arden was talking about, because we don't have to put back a full trench repair in the asphalt. We get to come back, butt pave it to 6 inches, and then the city will come back, or the project scope will come up and pave the entire roadway. So what we're asking for is to award contract to Trico General Engineering for a total of $93,379, which includes 10% contingency for repairs our vitrified clay pipe in 8 different.
Danny, you're working with the city on this, right? Coordinating with it?
The city is to the side, but the lead agency has been the flood control. But yes and no, we're working primarily.
Oh, flood control is doing it. Okay, sorry. Okay.
It's a joint effort on this, but our lead agency that's out there and inspecting it is the flood control.
Got it. Okay, that's right. It's not the city paving streets. Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions on this one?
Randy does.
Another question, got a comment. Danny, I'm glad to see you guys ahead of the ball on this one. I remember not too many years ago, the city went in and paved Yucca Drive from Palm all the way over to Verbena. We went back in 6 months later, ripped the whole thing up to put in sewers up there, and had to repave the whole street. And we got a lot of comments on that. It was quite frustrating. So not only the financial aspect, but the added headache and upset customers that we've got. I'm glad to see you guys coordinating this.
Thank you. The team's done a good job, and frankly, what happened is this is intended for the part of some of the work that we were going to do in the fiscal 21 request, but because they pushed their time frame up, we're going to take care of part of that this year and take care, because we have in the budget portion that we'll be discussing on Monday, there's several areas like this, and rather than do it as a small little project like this, it was better to go out there and take several different elements and try to get the economies of scale. But I'll definitely pass that along. They've done a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments, questions? No? Okay. We will move on then. California Special District Association Board of Directors, C term 2021-23 Southern Network. I guess, Dory?
Yeah.
One seat up for election, 4 candidates. You need to select one.
Okay, there's an empty seat, I believe. That it's an empty seat, correct? Yeah.
Correct.
We did get, pardon, is somebody talking?
Randy,
I asked Dory to cut my mic.
Oh,
okay. We did get something from just one, right? Just one candidate, Dory?
We personally, yes, received something for Greg Mills, but we didn't receive anything from any of the other candidates. What's in your packet was available on the CSDA website.
Okay. Yeah, we got, and it was from the general manager of the water district that this gentleman belongs to, or is a board member of. And so, I don't know, I thought it was a good letter. His general manager gave him a good send off. So I don't know any of the other ones. So, I suggest that you guys look it over, but I'm okay voting for him. But if anybody has any issues on that, let me know on Monday and we'll change it. Okay, any questions, comments? Oh. Okay, the Mission Springs Water District, I have to say it, Randy, alphabet regional plan.
Well, yeah, actually, Danny may even cover what I have in my general manager's report. Okay, Danny.
Well, hopefully, thank you, sir. There's still a lot of action happening in the background as far as plans, the completed plans. We're still waiting for the 100% plan submittal to come back to the district. We've engaged in a couple of different conversations in our 90% comments. Some of the other behind the scenes items that are working concurrently would be our water quality management plan, our WQMP. And for those that don't understand what that may be, it's after the project is completed, how do we handle our runoff when we created all these impervious areas? So we're trying to partner with the city because we're not required to go through the city to acquire any type of building permits or any type of, only permits that we're required to go through the city for are encroachment permits in their right of way. But being good stewards and not going through a full process, we want to be mindful of access issues for fire and police. And so those are some of the things that we're still working through the city with, and Danny Porras and his team. We met with the regional board to discuss our waste discharge requirements. I'm not sure if that's what you're going to get into, Arden. As we reported last month, we noticed that in their draft permit, there was some items that weren't correct. We have since met with the regional board to correct those items. We've amended a few items and returned that back. It's back in their hands, and we're hopeful that we met the June 1st deadline that they asked for, and we're hopeful to see that back in front of the regional board meeting this month. So we'll find out about that, but we've got
actually the regional. Aren't we hoping to have the regional board in July?
I'm sorry.
July.
And you know what? We corrected this in our executive meeting, the July meeting. Thank you. That was something that Brian confirmed. So in order to make the July deadline, we had to have it in June 1st, and we did do that. So we are working with the SRF grant folks. We are planning to have a meeting with the SRF team. They have confirmed back that the environmental review was completed in May, and that the remaining application review will be completed sometime in July of this year, 2020. We are planning to still have that meeting with them as far as a virtual meeting to understand what the next steps are and see if we can find any ways to expedite that. And let's see, the next part of this project, I still call it the regional plant, but is the regional conveyance line. It's the efforts of taking our current lift station and pumping that water to the new plant. It's been on hold only because we have to acquire some utility easements, and some of those utility easements have to come onto CVCC property for the multi-species habitat area. And it's not impossible, but the process is timely. So as we've spoken before in past updates, we've partnered with the city of Desert Hot Springs to possibly have a more expedited approach to a road easement. And there's been a little extra time added to it because they're working from home and there's a lot of different priorities. So we're looking to move this forward so that we can get this design completed. It's not a terrible urgency yet because the idea has always been, let's finish the design, let's start construction so where the construction will end at the same time that the plant construction is going to end. And we still got some flexibility there. But we're hoping in the next couple of weeks to a month, we're going to start seeing some more forward movement on this project. It'll come from its pause, it's on hold, and start going back into design. And that's all I have unless there's questions.
Anybody have any questions on this, comments? Okay, just for disclosure purposes, I will be recusing myself from this item on that July agenda. And the reason why it's not on the June agenda, other than that you guys more or less requested it also, from what I understand, but we have a bare quorum. So if I recuse myself, we won't have a quorum. So hopefully by July, we'll have a quorum. Okay.
Madam President, I think there was a hand up.
Somebody have their, oh, Steve, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, I had a question. On the conveyance line that you were talking about, to me, that's a very important element to this. And with that, a lingering question, I'd like to learn more about that. And I had a couple other questions that I don't think I'd want to take up the entire board's time getting to. So if you don't mind, I think it'd be a good idea to set a engineering committee meeting and bring some of these things up at that point. And I think Ivan is a member of that committee, and we could meet on this subject and start working through some of these issues. I want to have a better understanding of what we're doing. If I'm going to indebt my constituents, I want to be sure that where we're going is where I want to lead the district as well. So if you don't mind, you might want to set that up for us.
You know, we actually a workshop, if the other board members, would probably be a better idea, because everybody probably wants to hear about it. And that's why the standing committees is an actual public meeting also that has to be.
That's right. That's right.
So we might as well just do a workshop and have all the boards there, if it, you know, staff and everybody decides that we need one. Okay.
Well, at least that way I could put together a list of things that are concerns and questions, and I wouldn't feel like I had a timer running against me like I feel like right now, just by virtue of asking for a meeting. I feel like the president doesn't want me to be able to have a meeting, and it's entirely the chairman of the committee's responsibility to call such a meeting, and that's what I'm doing here.
Okay. Okay. Well, and another part of that. Another part of that is also that you can also do it any other time. I mean, when I have questions, I call or I go in. I know now with the Corbett you can't go in, but you know, you can call and ask your questions also. It doesn't have to be at a public meeting. Just to let you know, but if it's necessary, we can have a workshop. No problem.
Because of the hostile work environment that you've allowed to be created down there, I find it difficult to allow some certain staff members to be around as the popularly elected director on the board. I think I have to protect the public as well as myself and staff. We have a situation that we're better served meeting like this. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. I wasn't talking about the way we met, but yeah. But there, if there's good conversations about the plant and the engineering and whatnot, I think we'd all like to hear it. Was what I was getting at. Okay, so we'll go on to number 17, consent agenda. We just have the approval of the minutes and the registrar of demands. Any comments? Probably not. Okay. If I don't hear any, I'm going to move on to the financial report. General Manager.
I am going to yield the floor to Mr. McHugh.
Thank you, Arden, and Madam President and the rest of the board. Briefly, I'll go over the financial results through April 30th, 2020. The trends that we've seen throughout the year are continuing to, we're continuing to see them through April 30th. Operating revenue is tracking about 3% ahead of budget, which is almost exactly in line with production reports that you'll see in the monthly reports section that go, they're about 4% ahead of last year for the year. Operating expenses are tracking well ahead of budget. We are of $1.5 million to the positive. Luckily, we do budget every year for emergency repairs, and luckily thus far a lot of those repairs have not been necessary. In general, still maintaining a good cash position. Investment return is still positive. That is the case up through today also. I looked at our statements earlier today, and we are still maintaining, albeit small, positive income related to our investments. So we're definitely maintaining our principal. We don't know how long this is going to continue with current trends, but for the time being, we are maintaining our positions. So that is all I have to report today, and I can obviously answer any questions anybody may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay, seeing none. Public affairs report.
I will yield to Victoria, who I thought did a very nice job on our CCR this year.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board. So if you can flip over to section 19 in the agenda, if you don't already have it readily available or open. Just going to go through a couple things. Everything's been fairly status quo in terms of Brian's COVID-19 update. I don't necessarily have much in terms of outreach for that, aside from what the general manager just mentioned, which will be in next month's public affairs report, is the June newsletter and the CCR, which will be going out to all customers in its own mailing by the July 1st state deadline. And so look out for that in your mailbox. I think it came together very nicely this year, mixing together the water quality report, but of course the June newsletter component, and having different pieces scattered throughout, as opposed to just the newsletter and then the CCR. So thank you for the board's feedback on that. And it was definitely a true team effort also with operations. So it's been a good process so far. Going through the outreach report, you'll see Alpha Media's management report for the month of May, as well as our digital advertising report. And I think our digital advertising has been very spot on for this past, I think it's been always spot on, but I think more so ever since the COVID-19 situation. As you'll see, each month we've changed the message to highlight different key components within the COVID-19. For example, reminding individuals that their water is safe, the tap water is safe, letting our customers know about the billing assistance program, and then also last month, as we doubled, as MSWD doubled its contribution, reminding people, hey, we have bill assistance, and also we doubled it during this time. And so moving forward, and also of course, flushable wipes. We also have a Facebook post running, I believe today, hey, don't flush your flushable wipes. They're not as flushable as you think they are, and they can cause damage to the system. So we have that running, as well as just pictures of staff with face masks, which I know we had a bill insert last month, but we also did some Facebook posts and some digital ads about. Overall, that's probably all that I had in terms of COVID-19 related updates or public outreach updates. I am open to questions if there are any.
Questions, anybody? I have a comment. Wipes are also really hard on septic tanks. I know several pumpers who come out and they have to pump those things out and they get clogged up and it makes your septic tank overflow. So septic tanks also, and wastewater treatment plants, they're not good for either one. Right. Okay, no? Okay, so on to monthly reports.
Thank you.
I don't really have much to comment on, although we did increase our production quite a bit this time. I'm not exactly sure why. It did seem that it was very hot during that month, so that could be one reason. It's not as much as it was in February, so we have months like that. And but we also sell more water, so that's nice. And our production, or I mean, our treatment is staying fairly consistent at the Horton plant and the Desert Crest plant. So that's encouraging and meaningful. So with that said, I don't know if you have any more questions. I don't know what to point out here.
Anybody have any questions on the monthly reports? They're hard for me to see because I've got it on my iPad and it's like sideways. It's hard to see. I miss my book. Okay. Upcoming events and directors reports, item number 21.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. Okay. Okay, Russ.
Okay, May 5th, City Council meeting. They had an application for development of 11 single-family homes in the Sunset Springs development. That was approved. They also developed a new criteria for establishment of a building code appeals board. They also disbanded the Community and Cultural Affairs Commission, which will now be handled out of the city manager's office. City Council meeting on May 19th. I don't have anything to report there. There was a special City Council meeting on May 26th. There were 3 issues involving the general plan and zoning amendments. And then Desert Valley Builders Association legislative meeting on May 7th, nothing to report there. May 12th, County Supervisors meeting. Significant amount of time was taken up on COVID strategy and opening businesses and things of that nature. Okay, actually, and closing businesses. But and then May 21st, the Riverside Countywide Oversight Board. There were 3 issues: termination of a settlement agreement with the City of Palm Springs, declaration of a surplus of real estate property in the City of Riverside, and a declaration of surplus of real estate in the County of Riverside. And that was that concludes my report.
Thank you. Anybody else today? Randy? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. The May 5th and May 12th CVWD board meetings are reported on last month, a little out of order, but there was, I believe it was an engineer's report, but I wanted to get that info out as soon as I could. May 19th, DWA board meeting. Groundwater replenishment. Oh, the engineer's report, I said they were going to change the numbers. Don't look at the numbers that were on their report. Well, they left them the same. They didn't change those numbers after all. So the original engineer's report is accurate. They are looking at, in fact, I think they did, Arden was aware of this, change our replenishment fee up to $165 per acre foot. There was a June 2nd hearing on that. And the May 26th CVWD board meeting, I don't believe, yeah, there was a quick meeting. There was nothing of any substance there. And that concludes my couple of meetings.
Okay. Steve?
I'd have a couple of things. Let me get to it here. Okay. Today had History Matters with the Southern California Water Coalition webinar. Also on the 9th, Tuesday, developing effective standards for operating procedures was an aqua event. And on the 5th, I chimed in on a water loss supply and reliability webinar, which was on the 5th at 12:30. And it looks like debunking the myths surrounding tap water and bottled water, which was on May 28th. And that was an interesting, now I'm getting conflicted.
That was an aqua one. The
Yeah.
aqua one.
Yeah,
Yeah, the aqua webinar on the 5th with PG&E.
that, well, there was another one that went back further, I think. I'm not
Then
seeing.
the other one was the energy and cost savings tools.
Right, and that really wasn't all that relevant to us, but it was interesting nonetheless. It had to do with how they're going to structure some of their cost sharing for the fires that they had up there last year.
Okay. Okay, thank you. There were just the ones that
Right.
that I have on this list, the aqua ones.
Oh.
The only
yeah.
ones you have to actually,
Oh, I'm not looking at the
ones
list.
you
I'm
get
looking at the
people-
calendar. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
next
Oh,
month.
okay.
then. I've already done it. Thanks.
Okay, no problem. Okay,
I have one meeting to report.
okay, go ahead.
On May 19th, I attended the BIA webinar for public officials regarding COVID.
Me
A lot of good information. Manny was planning on speaking, but his Board of Supervisors meeting went long, so we did hear from Tom Kirk and Indio City Manager. And, nothing too significant to report on, but it was a good presentation. A lot of the information's changed since then. But,
Yeah, the COVID stuff, yeah. Is that it?
that's all I have.
Okay, I did that one also, and yeah, I was a little disappointed Manny wasn't going to be there. But the one thing that the Indio city manager, I hadn't heard him before, but he seemed like a pretty good guy. But one thing I was kind of surprised at, I guess they really like doing it, is virtual inspections, building inspections. And that's what they've been doing this COVID thing. And they're saying they might keep some of those on because they think that they're worthwhile. So I hadn't heard that before, but that was kind of interesting on that one. So yeah, it was okay, but I was a little disappointed in Manny not being there. So anyway, okay, so I guess that's it, right, you guys? Anybody else have any? Did we miss anybody there? No? Okay, so what's happening on correspondence?
Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. Then we'll go into district council's comments. John, are you still there?
I am. And we will not have a closed session today, and I have nothing else to report today.
Okay. General managers.
I just, maybe I will go back and talk briefly about our meeting with the Regional Water Quality Control Board that you won't be there for, Nancy.
Well, I'll be there. I'll just have to recuse
You
myself.
have to recuse yourself, yeah. And basically what we're doing is discussing our effluent discharge. And the issue is going to be the restrictions on our TDS levels, or our salt nutrient discharges. And the regional board staff, like Danny said, had made some committed to make some corrections to some of the things they had put out, and they were pretty receptive to, some ideas on how we could approach this. We want to be very careful because, if we have to go to a tertiary level with removal of salt nutrients in this plant, it's going to increase the cost. So but I think we made a good case that day, and I was very proud of our staff. We did a great presentation. The second thing I have is that we are going to have a virtual employee appreciation event on Tuesday morning, and you will be invited to participate. We are going to respect the social distancing and wearing a mask, etc., and we'll let you know the details for that. So if you can be available, you are welcome to participate. And then the last thing that I have is something I'm very excited about.
Do you have a time, Arden, before you go on to the next one, do you have a time for that one on Tuesday by any chance? Or?
I can't, around,
okay, never mind. If you don't have it.
maybe Brian knows, around 9:30, you'll see. Dory, do you remember?
I believe it's at 11 o'clock.
At 11, okay.
Okay. I just wanted to put it in my calendar.
It'll
Okay,
be around lunchtime.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. As you know, the districting process is to ensure that the minority communities have representation. And this is something we didn't get sued to do, or we started it on our own. And in fact, we started it back in April of 2019. Y'all told me to move on it and get this thing done. We had our first hearing, however, and somewhere in between here, we also got a call from the lawyer that usually files the lawsuit that kicks these things off. So we're being watched. And in January of this year, we had our first public hearing, which was maps were not supposed to be at that meeting, and we did have that meeting. We had a second one, a follow-up meeting in February, and then, as you know, the virus showed up, and there was an order by the governor's office that we were to suspend hearings, in districting hearings. So we've been in touch with the governor's office, and we found out yesterday, late. In fact, John and I were talking about it at about 9:30, 10 o'clock last night, and the governor's lifted the shelter-in-place order. And the county has also lifted their social districting orders. And so we posed the question, does that mean we can move forward? And they informed us that there was a subsequent clarification of the governor's office of his order of, I believe, N3420, which was the one that put the suspension in place. So yesterday, the governor's office interprets this clarification that we are allowed to proceed with this process. So in order to comply with the time frame that we will need to, we're going to need to set, and we have our hearing, we have our maps ready. There are 3 of them. We have had them on the website for some time now. We are ready to start this process by next Tuesday, and we'll be probably setting up a meeting. I wish I could let everybody say, when can they meet? But if we don't start this process by next Tuesday, we won't have it in the time frame we need to have it presented to them. This meeting will encourage participation, and we will attempt to accommodate anyone who wants to testify in whatever way they want to. So that you'll see that notice probably going out tomorrow. And I'm not exactly sure right now. We plan to have the meeting at our usually regular time of about 3 o'clock on Tuesday. So I don't know.
Next Tuesday? Next Tuesday? The
yes.
16th?
No, yes, the 16th, I'm sorry.
16th at 3 o'clock.
Yes. So just moving forward with the direction I got from you. Hopefully, if we do it at that time and everything goes okay, it's not a guarantee that we can get it in before the deadline, but at least we can start the process now. Okay? And that's all I have.
Okay. As we move forward. So did the board members get do you all know that they're on the website, the maps, I guess? Yeah. Okay, director's
that's all I have.
Pardon?
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Director's comments. Ivan?
Today.
No. Randy?
Thank you. The only thing I had, I actually could have said earlier when Victoria was talking with her report, is our new, the newsletter that went out combined with the water quality report. I haven't read the entire thing, so substance-wise, I can't tell you, but I did skim through it. Good report, looks very nice, very professional, but yet personal. Doesn't look like some machine created it for data. It looked very nice. So thank you for that. Good job.
Okay. Is that it? Okay, you're muted anyway, Randy. Steve, you have any comments?
Russ has his hand up too. I'll go since you have me unmuted. I wanted to ask staff, I think we have this set up when we did the cost of living adjustment, we put it off until
October.
Or January.
Well, both.
Mid-year,
Both, I guess.
That was part of what I wanted to clarify. When this comes back, I would ask that so that there's no misunderstanding, that it come back with an option that would allow for retroactive increases if we're in the position. The staff will know that long before they decide to bring it back to us, so that they don't go without their increases, but so that it's retroactive as well. You might have to do it two ways so that the board can decide, but I just want to make sure that if it's possible to extend those increases back to when they would have been starting, I guess, this week or next week. Also, I would ask that staff look at maybe conduct a compensation study for adjacent agencies for board compensation, maybe bring it back at the same time, and so that the boards would have at least a reasonable bit of parity with what's happening now. Nancy's favorites get chosen for the the board needs to take a look at this and decide whether they like it just the way it is. It's part of why we're having these discussions that you're not comfortable with in the public domain. So with that, I'll say thank you, and Russ had his hand up.
Okay, before I go to Russ, I just want to say one thing, that 3 board members can decide to put anything on an agenda.
One just asked, and if 3 don't want to,
I don't know how the process could
right,
work.
right. And if no one's interested in that, that's fine. I just want it on the
I
record.
don't know if they are, Steve. Okay, Russ.
Yeah. As of Friday, bars, restaurants, hotels are open for business. Those that are still in business can open. County supervisors meeting are done on site, not via Zoom. They have people that can call in with questions. They do allow public to come in and make comments at the supervisors meeting. And so I'm hopeful that moving forward, that starting in July, we will do likewise. I don't see any reason. Now, anybody that doesn't feel comfortable coming in, we can still do a telephonic attendance, but I don't see any reason why we can't move ahead with that. And I also want to commend staff, particularly Victoria, for the brochures, pamphlets, whatever you want to call them, were put out. The graphics were first class. I mean, I was very, very impressed. That was very well done. So hats off to staff on that. And that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Russ. Yeah, I think one of the issues this time is Desert Hot Springs still has the masks that they have to wear masks. You have to wear masks in public or anywhere. So staff does around the office too. So having a meeting with all of us wearing masks it's kind of hard to hear people sometimes muffled under their mask on this kind of a situation. So that was my reasoning for waiting at least till next month and see what happens. Okay. Oh, I just want to, I attended or participated in the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission meeting today, and I just wanted to just tell you one thing about it. I know it's not a month away from the meeting, but so to report on it. But there was a couple items on there about monitoring, which brings up the mesquite hummocks monitoring and the settlement agreement with the CVCC and the Sierra Club on that issue. And I just wanted to let Arden know that I was able to ask for them to notify MSWD if that group, I can't remember the name of it, the monitoring group that gets together, and then the UC Riverside gives them a quarterly report on the monitoring that's going on out there. Ask them to give you a notice of that, so that if
Thank you.
that Mission Springs would be interested in, at least we could attend that. They said they would, so we'll see what happens there. Just want to tell you that. Okay, and Steve, if you have any questions about the Mission Springs water, the reclamation plan out there, Monday we aren't going to have much on the, we're going to go pretty fast through this, so bring your questions Monday too. Maybe you can get some of your important questions out of the way anyway to begin with. So okay, I'd love to hear them. You probably got good questions. So anyway, let's see. I guess that's it. No closed session today. Anybody else have anything? Yes, Steve. You want to unmute?
I can't imagine how you could be so calm when he just told you that he won't be able to connect the two plants. You're going to have two isolated plants. Based on what we were just told tonight, 70% of the reason why we're building this plant has just been wiped away, in my view. I'm not comfortable indebting this community with $100 million worth of debt, or whatever it is you guys are going to come up with a new district headquarters and all of this other stuff, when you can't interchange between the two facilities. It's ridiculous.
Well, that would be very concerning to all of us. Yes.
Well, I would think so, but you don't seem to show any concern at all. You go through these meetings, and as long as Steve doesn't get to talk, then that was a good meeting. So, here we are, 6 months from an election, and you've got three guys that are probably going to be out on the curb because they won't take their hands off their own necks.
Just do us a favor and bring your questions on Monday, and
I think we'll do it at the engineering meeting when it's been called.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, everybody, meeting adjourned.